The foundation was founded in 1979. I think that makes us one of the oldest foundations in Sedalia or Pettis County. The foresight that those members had to be guided by the Holy Spirit, to think about the challenges that the school would face in the future and was facing at the time in 1979, just they must have been prayerful and extremely thoughtful to think about what could enhance the long-term sustainability of Sacred Heart School. Having a foundation certainly allows us to be more flexible in what we may be able to do in more of a business-like manner. And one of those things that I'm thinking about in particular is real estate acquisitions around the campus of the school. We have had several houses that were falling down, perhaps also had crime actually happening in those houses. And the foundation has given us the ability to have a vehicle to quickly identify and snatch up those properties when they became available. So that has been something that you can see very easily today, how the campus is cleaning up and becoming safer for all of our students. The foundation has established a named scholarship program so that those who want to honor loved ones and through hopefully in perpetuity will be able to give a gift to the foundation, and we will responsibly manage that in our investments so that those named scholarships can be honoring that individual and also sustaining Sacred Heart School for hopefully years to come.
They had the wherewithal to come up with the idea and the plan to build a foundation, to put funds away to help support Sacred Heart School. They knew the cost of Catholic education was going to continue to rise, and they were smart enough to figure out if we build a fund, a foundation, then we have the ability to support the school, whether it be scholarships, whether it be building plans that the school needed, anything that the school needed, the foundation can help support that. And because of the path and the road that they paved for us, I'm blessed to be the president of the foundation now, continuing their work and continuing to improve it and make it better, because it's such an important thing, and it's so important for the support of our students and continue to get Catholic education, Christian education to the forefront and get it to people who really want a Christian Catholic education. If it weren't for those gentlemen putting their time and effort in to again, think about the foundation, think about the idea down the road, here's what we're going to need. Education right now is X amount of dollars, but we know it's going to be 10 times that in 10 years, 20 times that in 20 years. If they had not planned for that, we'd be sitting around trying to figure out ways to pay the utility bills, ways to pay the water bills, ways to keep Sacred Heart a viable option for Christian Catholic education. And quite frankly, I think it would still be here because the good Lord works in mysterious ways and keeps things going. But I know we've made things a lot easier because of their hard work and determination in getting the foundation to where it is today.
The foundation has been this school's insurance policy over the years. When we weren't sure where the money was going to come from, we always knew that when push came to shove, because this foundation was in place, we were going to survive. And it's gone much beyond survival at this point with the building projects we've done and the solar array that's been put into place and all of the long-range planning that's in place now. The foundation is a vital part of all of that, and it's really, I just am so proud that my dad was part of one of the founding members of the foundation board, and then so many people carried the mantle after him to make the foundation stronger and more vibrant. And to this day, where the corpus is, hovering around $3 million, we know that our school's going to be here. And we're just I personally am so proud of the role my dad played in that.
The idea of having a good Catholic education and bring financial stability, they needed a long-term plan, and that just added to that long-term plan to be able to get that foundation started, create a base of funds that they could operate from, and still grow that base so that it became more and more kept up with the economy, kept up with inflation, things like that.
We're looking for a place to put a solar array on our campus. Well, we couldn't really, because we're kind of landlocked here in the middle of Sedalia, we couldn't really find anything. How about if we build a carport over the west parking lot and put the solar array on top of the carport? And that's what we've done. And that saves the school about $15,000 a year and in perpetuity, and will be more going forward as energy costs go up. The solar array, that's the kind of thing, the kind of forward thinking that members of the foundation and people consider because of the communication and the outreach that the foundation brings us.
I think the foundation acts in kind of hand in hand in keeping our alumni connected. Mm-hmm. So, it's not just alumni that support the foundation, it's a community effort. So that's the big key of the foundation, of us being able to turn to the community and get their support as well, because the options of the ability to have Sacred Heart School here is a huge value to our community. So we get a lot of community support, but it also allows our alumni, no matter where they're at, to give back to the school and be there for the next generations, and to keep that education that we so appreciated alive.
My husband is just a very generous person anyway, so we've always supported the foundation as much as we can on an annual basis, because the teachers in the school need the support to make this place. I want to see this place serve this community for as long as I live, and then so.
Because of the vision of the founding members of the Sacred Heart Foundation, it has enabled us to get through some really tough times and not consider closing and making our school smaller. So I absolutely believe that the school has benefited greatly and able to retain all of its grades through some really tough times.
Mom and Dad, Sacred Heart Parish and school have played such a big role in their lives. They first met at Sacred Heart at a Sunday Mass when they were both approximately 6 years old. They went to school together, high school, became high school sweethearts their senior year, and married each other. They're 88 right now, and this November they're getting ready to celebrate their 70th wedding anniversary. They just lifelong parish members. They not only every Sunday, but go as many times as they can during the week. Up until my dad turned 85, he would serve for the priest during the week. There's kind of a skeleton, participation during the week, early masses. So he would do that. It's just played a huge role in their lives and in our lives as children, grandchildren, and now even their great-grandchildren. Attending the school, getting our education, they've always felt that was very important to get that strong Catholic foundation and a good education. And they've done all that they can over the years to ensure that we all had it.
Hi, Pat. Hi, Jim. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame. We love you.
When I think about my grandma and grandpa and their involvement at Sacred Heart, one thing that I always go back to is when I was in grade school. And I know most people may remember it or may not remember it, but kind of where the new gym is standing right now used to be a playground, and it was a wooden playground. And there would always be some grandpas that would volunteer to help keep that up and it kind of had like a little treehouse fort look to it. And I always remember peeking out the window and seeing Grandpa over there helping. And it just made me so proud to know that he was present and he was involved. And then the same in the old gym. They're no longer there too, sadly, but huge wooden bleachers, floor to ceiling. And I remember seeing my grandpa up there sanding them down and staining them. And it just gave me a sense of pride in knowing that he loved the school still just as much as those of us that were there were loving it. And so I was always grateful for those memories of just peeking around corners and seeing my grandpa being involved, and knowing that if anything needed to be done, I knew he would step up. There was always a core group of, I called them grandpas because they were all of our grandpas. But they were there. You always knew there was 3 or 4 of them running around with all their tools, just donating their time and resources and skills to the school. And so that was pretty special. And being at Mass and like seeing my grandparents go up for communion, and you got to give them a little wave. And then, they went back to their pew and you went back to your pew. But it was always special and just something that just kind of warmed your heart as a little kid. And even a big kid, when I was in high school, I'd still get to see Grandma and Grandpa at Mass. And it always helped me just kind of connect with faith too as I got older, and knowing that my grandpa went to Mass every day and he was serving Mass even on days that the school wasn't involved in a part of Mass and there was no servers. He helped. He stepped in and helped. And so it was really special.
I remember my mom and dad were always present whenever we played basketball. David and I played basketball at Sacred Heart. Mike played basketball at Sacred Heart. Mom and dad were always at our games and always supportive of us. Never any question about it. As I said earlier, they've always sacrificed their lives for others. They've always taken care of others. They've always shown us that good Catholic Christian ethic. And I'm so proud of them. And I think they are so deserving of this honor. And I just wanted to say that I love them both very much, and I appreciate Sacred Heart extending this honor to them. I think it's well deserved, and I just thank you all very much.
Hi, Grandma and Grandpa. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on such a great honor. Looking forward to being an exciting night for y'all, and thank you for everything you've done in our lives. It's been wonderful.
Congratulations. We love you so much, and we're so proud of you for getting this award, and we can't wait to celebrate with you.
Love you.
Love y'all.
The things that come to mind when I think of Mom and Dad is that they both got the heart of a servant. They were both always active with, whether it be scouts, coaching teams, or doing something else for the school. It seemed like they were always busy with that. Even though they had 7 kids, they were always busy. Both of them were great role models. Mom never knew anybody that wasn't in need, whether it was the hitchhiker, the person coming to the door that was hungry, the elderly neighbor up the road that needed a lift to work because it was a little hot. Seemed like she was always helping somebody, even though she had so much going on. Set a great example for us, and I know the one thing that really stands out to me is how in the world Mom and Dad made 7 of us all feel special. But the love they had for us, they also shared that love with the parish as well. And I know to this day they're very concerned about kids being able to attend Sacred Heart, and that's why they started the Ralph Ball Scholarship Fund in honor of Dad's brother. They really want to make sure that education is affordable for everybody.
We were always, they were always there, like in sports and things of that sort. All of us played a lot of sports, and they were always there running us to practices and things like that, and made sure we were always there and always at church on Sunday. That was the big thing. The raising of the 7 kids and always going to church every Sunday. They making sure we were always at church and always at school, and making sure we represented the family good. Like making sure we were brought up in the Catholic faith, and that that we always attended church and had a good relationship with God. Made sure of that. When they were both in school, they both went there, and they've known each other since they were in school and still together today. So it's quite remarkable in itself.
Congratulations, Mom and Dad. We are all so proud of you. You have been such an inspiration to us our entire lives, and we just couldn't be more proud. So enjoy your moment in the sun. We love you.
I think the reason that Ken deserves to be in the Hall of Fame is because of the type of life that he has modeled. The proof of Sacred Heart School, I think, is in its graduates. And if you could put out a model of somebody that you'd say, if you do as well as this person, then you have done fine, you've done well. It would be Ken. He's always felt that Sacred Heart was a part of his life and important to him.
I've known Ken for quite a few years, and I have the privilege of actually meeting with Ken for breakfast every Friday morning. He's reaching out to the community to do a lot of things. He's been involved with the Rotary for many, many years here in his local town here, and both as president and now with things with district, whether it's just with the local food shelf. More recently, he's been involved with a group to help homeless teenagers. He's also been involved with Braver Angels, which is the wider organization to help dialogue across different, I guess I would say, philosophies. Both he and Joanne are involved. He helps support Joanne, I guess, also with the human and sex trafficking at our parish as well. It's clear from all of his conversations that the school and the parish gave him a great foundation. I don't think he'd be the person he was if he didn't have that foundation.
Ken has just always spoken of Sacred Heart as a place that is near and dear to his heart. He went there, as you know, K through 12, and he just always felt very accepted there, very loved, and he wanted to give that back. And I remember the first few times I came home with Ken, that people would just talk about all the things he did and how many clubs and sports and activities he was involved in at Sacred Heart and at Sacred Heart Church. In our home church here in Minnesota, very much the person to go to. People go to him when they want an opinion, want something done, need someone to head a committee, need someone to speak at church. When he announced his retirement, my children and I decided we wanted to have a retirement party for him, which he didn't want, and we ignored him. So we knew that people would bring things like Ken loves wine. We knew they'd bring nice bottles of wine and other gifts. And we said, this is not what he needs or wants. And then I thought, let's honor Sacred Heart. Because of that generosity between our friends and the matching of Medtronic, we've been able for the past 3 years to give Tanner Damlow a scholarship, and that will continue after Tanner graduates this year. And it has just meant the world to Ken to have that up close personal relationship with Sacred Heart, with that family. So that's been a real gift that we didn't realize would be such a nice side effect of the scholarship. He just has always been a very faith-filled person, and being a part of the Sacred Heart community, even though we lived in Kansas City, then Chicago, then outside of Minneapolis, he wanted to always feel a part of it.
I mean, if I had to put words on it, I think the first word that comes to mind is pride, and you know, a deep sense of community. I can't think of anybody else in my life that I've at least come across yet who speaks the way that they do about their high school, the way that my dad does. You know, that deep sense of community and just pride that it's just beams whenever he talks about the people he met and his experience at Sacred Heart. Whenever you hear him talk about his time and his relationships there, that is it's just part of who he is now, and it's really cool to see.
biggest thing I can share about his relationship with it is how his identity, his connection to the town, his family was also harmoniously tied into that. My grandparents passed on when I was 30, and I actually did the math a couple weeks ago out of just some random thought in my head. And I spent a total in those 30 years, 1.5 years of my life in Sedalia at the places that my grandparents raised him and the church with them. And I think that ability to be able to be back there so often, to connect family, to connect community, were principles that he carried his whole life.
We would come visit my grandparents once or twice a year. We usually came for Easter, and like those memories of coming to visit Sacred Heart, seeing how much it means to my dad, seeing how much it meant to my grandparents was always a really fond memory for me. Coming to see, especially on Easter Sunday, the church looks beautiful. Everyone's there. It's always a nice day. And really getting to be with people that, my dad grew up with, that my grandparents grew up with. Those are memories that are really fond for me and hold a special place in my heart.
Ken was very, very active with all things Sacred Heart. I can remember very involved with student government, class plays, the one-act play contest. He was editor of Spectrum, the yearbook, and that's a thankless job. And he did a great job with that, but very active with all things Sacred Heart. Maybe the most important thing when I think about Ken Mosier and Sacred Heart, he wears his loyalty up front, if not boldly. His actions speak more than his words, although his words can be many. But he speaks through his actions. His involvement with class reunions from far away Minnesota, his continual involvement and conversations with our classmates, alumni, the school's administration, even former clergy. And perhaps more importantly, as I know he and his spouse Joanne, who's a lifelong educator, they understand the importance of education for themselves, for their children, and for people that they can help. And maybe that's why Ken puts his money where his mouth is when it comes to Sacred Heart, or maybe where his heart is. I know he's funded scholarships at Sacred Heart, and that speaks to you can only have one master, but Ken and Joanne have decided they're going to invest in Sacred Heart because of all the experiences and loyalty that Ken feels for them. So you look at confirmed and consistent loyalty, direct support, fondness for his friends, all for his alma mater. His attitude and his actions are clear. He takes care of things important to his heart, and that's Sacred Heart. So congratulations to Ken Mosier and his induction into the Sacred Heart Hall of Fame. Couldn't happen to a better guy with a better track record.
Carolyn is one of those that doesn't just speak stewardship, she is a steward. And I've only known Carolyn for about 2 years. But I got started working on a bazaar a long time ago when we decided the old ladies probably ought to help. Well, anyway, I discovered that Carolyn is what you would call the quiet soldier. She's always there. You don't even really have to ask her to help. If her health allows her to help, she's there. And she's supportive, but now a little caveat to that, a little warning. You don't ever ask Carolyn's opinion unless you can handle the truth, because she is honest and she's trustworthy. She loves this place. Her heart beats the Sacred Heart.
She's always been a very, very strong Catholic, and that came from her grandparents. They were German Catholic, and she never, as long as we've been married, which has been 55 years, I don't think she's ever missed a holy day, and if she does miss church, she's sick. And we both loved the school. We always felt that the kids got a very, very good education because the class sizes, and I think the teachers are very, very devoted to teaching. You don't come to Sacred Heart or St. Vincent de Paul's and teach to make money, because they can go somewhere else and make a lot more money than they can teaching at Sacred Heart. They teach because they want to teach. They want the kids to learn. And she loves the church. She loves Sacred Heart. If there is something that needs to be done, she will volunteer to do it. And she's the type of person, she doesn't want to be recognized for it. She that had kittens when they said she was being nominated for the Hall of Fame. She's kind of the type of person that stays in the background. She wants to, if there's something that has to be done, she wants to get there, get it done, and let's go on to something else. And that's just the way she is. She ran the soccer stand. She did Cub Scouts. And it was always kind of funny when she'd come home from school and I'd get home from work. She says, "Are you doing anything such and such date?" And I'd say, "Well, not that I can think of." "Well, good, because we got to go on a class trip." I said, "Okay." And the boys would come on and say, "Well, they need drivers for golf or something like this. Can you drive?" "Okay." So she volunteered a lot for us for a lot of stuff.
She graduated from Sacred Heart. She grew up going through Sacred Heart. My great grandma was there involved with, her at school. And she was involved with the school, and she wanted us to be, because since it was such a small school, not a lot of people, everybody was like a family, and she wanted us all to be there to support each other. She's never said no. She was always willing to help, whether it be, setting up masses for when we were in school, funerals. She was always there for everything, prayer group, doing the funeral dinners. She gets together that sews the little things for the people's walkers at the nursing homes. It's just she's never said no when it comes to helping the church, no matter what they needed, no matter how she felt, no matter how tired she was always step up and be there for them. She was always there for everything we did. She always volunteered for field trips, school parties, broom mother, Cub Scouts, soccer, basketball, you name it. She was always there, willing to help, whether it be a chaperone or bringing food, taking us home after practice, taking anybody else home that needed, a ride home or to practice. And, when I was being an altar boy, she'd get up bright and early, take me to 6 o'clock mass to be a server. If I was needed at a funeral or a wedding, she was always there to drop me off and pick me up.
Well, I just always remember, from elementary school all the way through high school, just being a part of, school parties, bringing me dinner after, on the way to a soccer game, bring me something to the school, like volunteering, the booster club, for all the sports. She used to run the concession stand. We had the little red concession stand in the backyard all the time. So just, always being part of all the events, always being there. So doing anything she needed that was asked. Choosing the choir, remember going up to the choir, looking over at church every Sunday, guiding us spiritually, setting an example for us to, go to church, do what you're supposed to do, being kind to people, that kind of stuff. Just always being a part of what's going on at the church. I think it's awesome. I mean, I think it's well deserved, for the time that she gave to the church and school, from as I was growing up and even now. She's retired, and I feel like she's just as busy, if not busier, volunteering, whether it's at the school or church, now it's pretty awesome.
She's built a beautiful legacy for her children. From the time she was their Cub Scout sponsor to everything through grade school, high school, it was just there. She and Bob were a team. In fact, when I nominated, she found out at nominator, she said, "I think I need to kick your butt." And I said, "Oh, you found out?" And she said, "Yes, why would you do that?" And I go, "Because it's time. It's time. You have worked behind the scenes so faithful so hard, so true. It's time that you step out, and you were in the limelight for a while.
First met Tom in 1975 in the fall, my first year here. He and I were working together. In fact, in the spring, I was an assistant coach for the baseball team with Tom. I learned from Tom, probably number one, the number of hours that have to be put in to be a successful coach. Tom's ahead of the curve. He's playing man zones and running four-corner offenses because he studied the game, just read books, went to conferences, and loved what he was doing, and he loved transferring that knowledge on to the players. And I think one of the things that he did so well in transferring to the players was he was inspiring. The physical sacrifices that his players would make were absolutely incredible. They just refused to be outplayed. And because he organized his defenses so well and he inspired these guys to play so hard, we won championships against teams that frankly were better than us, in terms of just pure talent. Tom's teams were just incredibly hard to beat, and nobody liked to play them because when they left the court, they were going to be drained. They had to pay for everything they got because it was going to be so difficult to beat Tom's teams on defense. One of the gifts that Tom gave his players is that gift of understanding hard work. And I could name names of players who'd step forward and say, well, I learned to work hard because of Coach Genowine. And I carried that through life because I learned the price of success playing for Coach Genowine. And that carried over into my career, my family, my faith. And that's what I keep coming back to, is what he gave to the players and how much he loved giving that to them. I think sometimes he doesn't even realize the gift that he gave to many of those kids.
Coach always talked to us about, knowing who those people were that you go into the trenches with when life is hard. And for him at that time, it was about the game that we were playing, right? But as we got older, it sure made sense that he was talking about life. And, to this day, Tom Genowine is one of those men that I know he'd be in a trench with me and I'd be in a trench with him. And I talk to my sons and daughters about that, is who are you surrounding yourself with? And can you count on them in those moments in life that really matter? And those are lessons that Coach taught that really stick out. Coach has always been there for me. I say all the time, he raised me, coached me since the time we were in diapers. But really, I think I about from the time I was 8 years old until I was 17, he coached me, but not just in sports, but in life. It's about doing the right thing, being a man of your word, people knowing they can count on you. And he taught me that over and over again. And to this day, he's been that for me. And I would say even more so in the last 25 years of my life. Like, I don't see him on a daily basis like I did as a student. But, my father passed away at 27 years old. And to have somebody like Tom Genowine in my life, and I honestly, I'm part of a special group of kids who went to Sacred Heart that could say they had Tom Genowine and Richard Boehner both in their life. And Tom and Rich both stepped up when my dad died. And so today, if I have to call Tom Genowine for anything, I call him last summer just to talk to him about sports thing with one of my sons. Just had questions on where I could get some video and things like that we could watch. He's always there for me. and he'd be there for my kids too if we needed him to be. And he's always been like a dad that way. And I'm sure it's not just me. I know there's a lot of young men that he coached over the years that if they need Tom Genowine, he's there. And that's who he is. And those lessons then that he taught, whether it was on the baseball field or on the basketball court, life is hard. And, you know, from losing my dad to recently losing our daughter, you have to lean back into the things that you were taught at a young age. And for me, a lot of that was with Coach.
I look back fondly on all of my memories with Coach Genowine. I mean, I was fortunate. I met him when I first came in sixth grade. As a PE coach there. Played basketball for him in high school, played baseball for him in high school. Just, you know, a great man, a great mentor, somebody who really instilled a good work ethic in all of us. He really knew how to coach up and got the most out of every player. And then, you know, what I think I gained the most out of was the value of building relationships over a lifetime, you know, through sports. And Coach Genowine really taught about life, but he was passionate about basketball and baseball. And Coach Genowine just focused on being honest with us. And then he always kept stats too. You know, he always tracked stats weekly. We took pride in being one of the top teams in Class 1 at the time, with points allowed per game, rebounds, defensive rebounds, turnovers. I think that's probably where I learned the most is the wins are the byproduct, you know, of the process. But again, he taught us how to win in life, and everything that, you know, I do now as a coach, I learned from Coach Genowine.
The main attributes I've always thought for Coach Genowine is he's one of the best I've ever seen at player development. You know, he knows how to take a kid who is willing to work hard and help them become a good player. You know, Tom and I've talked about this often. There are other coaches who might be better game coaches, but I've never seen anybody better at teaching young people the game of basketball and helping them improve and reach their potential as players, if they're willing to do their part and give the effort. He's not going to do something shady to try to win the game, or he's not going to let them get away with giving less than what they're capable of giving. And if it means he's going to have to get on them, he'll do that. But he is able to get on kids harder than other people might because A, they know what he's talking about, and B, they know that he cares about them and he's got their best interests at heart. I've had the privilege the last 5 or 6 years of Coach Genowine and I coached junior high basketball together, and we had a lot of success, and the kids were a pleasure to be around, and those will be great memories for me, being able to coach those teams with Tom, and the fact that we've kind of grown older as real true friends. That's kind of a special thing.
Yeah, you always hear that life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But with Tom Genowine, that's not true. You know exactly what you're going to get. And that's a man of character, someone of integrity, a man of honor, and someone that's going to do the right thing, even when no one's watching. I think about through his 41 years of just the number of young men and young women that he served as a mentor and a role model to. I'm just glad that I was one of them. Whether it was sports teams, whether it was athletics, or whether it was maybe the speech and debate teams, Mark always wanted the students to have the very best coaching and guidance possible. So he would find, whether that be a teacher at the school, a coach at the school, or someone in the parish that could help give that program, lift it up and give it an edge. And he wanted every student to be able to succeed and have the best mentoring possible. Well, when I think about Mark's contribution to Sacred Heart, I think about the quote, "A rising tide lifts all boats. You know, Mark never chased the limelight, but he made everyone around him a superstar through his guidance and through his support. Sacred Heart was always a very good school. Mark Register made Sacred Heart a great school.
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of Mark is loyalty. Loyalty is something that's not that easy to find in the world today. He started teaching and coaching here, and the number of hours that he would put in, for instance, his religion classes to teach a quality religion class. It's not like there were all these curriculums written. He had to dig in there and pretty much invent his own class, and he spent hours at it. And of course, that commitment has followed into his leadership role as principal and then as president, the growth in enrollment, the growth in the size of the school, the growth in the programs, the quality of the education, everything flourished under Mark. And I'll say it again, I'm not real sure without Mark Register's leadership that we would be able to sit here and talk about Sacred Heart School in the present tense.
Mark Register is a pillar of Sacred Heart. Here's an alumnus who worked really hard as principal. He left for a while. He felt the calling to come back, and thank goodness he did, because his timing was perfect. He continues to just do a fantastic job of supporting the school. He and I get to work closely together as the foundation president and him as the president of the school. And I can't think of a better guy to work with, and I can't think of a better, stronger supporter of Sacred Heart School, St. Vincent de Paul Parish than Mark Register. He prides himself on being able to stand at the door and greet every kid and remember their name, or every child, and remember the name every morning when they walk you through the doors of Sacred Heart. And what a unique thing for a president to be able to do, to recognize the importance of that, and for him to be able to do it, because those kids look at him as he's a leader. They look up to him. He's a mentor. And then they see that, hey, he knows my name, so all of a sudden he becomes a little more common to them. And it's just fantastic that he takes the time to do it. And again, we're just so blessed to have him in the Sacred Heart School.
Mark was on my first basketball team in 1975, and he'd gone from a short-tempered young man to now a prestigious Dr. Mark Register, and I've seen him develop and grow and his life unfold almost right before my eyes. He's like the stabilizing force. Before he was principal, which I was here when he was still going to college, we had different principals every couple years. And when Mark came, he had a vision, and everything would start to be stabilized. When he came, he found the best coaches he could find for all programs, not just the boys, and the girls benefited most a lot. Now there are many conference championships in girls basketball. In girls sports. There are many district champions in women's sports. And all the decisions he ever made, whether you agree or disagree with him, he made them for the right reasons. He always made a decision based on what was best for the kids, and he just cared so much for the school and for the kids.
I guess I had that extra policing, or I guess self-policing of, well, I don't want to get sent to my dad's office. It was different than just getting sent to the principal's office. I knew there was extra stuff at home if I ever got sent to the principal's office. So did my best to stay out of, I guess it wasn't this room, it was on the other side of this wall, but stay out of that room as much as possible. There was a kindergarten girl my second year. I'm walking down to the cafeteria. She's in line to go to lunch. And I like to talk to the kids just like he used to talk to the kids, whatever. So I sat in there talking to him, and she goes, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I'm Mr. Register." She, elevator look up and down, goes, "No, you're not." Having my dad in her mind, like, "No, you're not the Mr. Register that I know." It's like, okay, you're thinking of my dad, you're thinking of Dr. Register. I am the other Mr. Register at the school. So I just think that was pretty cool that even the kindergartners that have only known him for 2 or 3 months are like, no, you're not who you say you are.
I'm Will Register. I am Mark's oldest and better looking son. I love hearing the stories about how Dad would bring us in when he was teaching religion. You know, if Mom was sick or had to work or something and he had to have us, or the babysitter was sick. I love hearing the stories about, well, I used to pass you around this classroom to do that. So I feel like that really kind of bases it there. And as we got older, I remember coming in with my dad at 6 o'clock in the morning to sit, like Wes said, in that room, but we'd be playing in his chair waiting for school to start. But my favorite thing is my dad meets us back where the Harris Hall. Every Tuesday and Thursday in the winters, I get to drop my daughter off. Pawpaw comes and gets her and walks her in to school every day. That is something that sticks out in my mind, is seeing my dad, principal, everything, take my daughter, his student, still his principal, into school every Tuesday and Thursday. So that's my favorite memory right now.
This building still is home. It feels like coming home even now. I loved not just my class, but like the teachers and even down to like the lunch staff. It's just such a close-knit community here. And you know, we've moved away. We've been gone over a decade, and it's just not something that you don't know how rare it is until you go other places and realize that most people don't have that experience.
You're not going to find someone more loyal to a purpose, a school, a parish, a church. He's dedicated pretty much his entire life to that school and to the, people involved with Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart just is kind of the blood and bones of who he is. I always think, we're big Chiefs fans and we always say we bleed red. Well, Mark bleeds red for Sacred Heart. And that kind of encompasses both the school and the church. He's super passionate about his faith and everything that is Sacred Heart. And it shows in everything he does, actually.
Little things. Will running across the basketball court when he saw his dad coaching one time in the middle of a game. That was interesting to go grab. As Tasha said, we've all said, it's just family. It's, and I've given my husband to this place. I feel like I have. And sometimes I'm a little jealous because Sacred Heart gets a lot of his time, but it's okay because this is where he belonged and belongs and has done wonderful things.